Hey, what's up, everyone? Thanks for checking out the video. Southside Braves here, and today for you, I'm back to talk some more football. Week 1 wrapped up just a couple days ago. Week 2 is right around the corner. So we're going to look back at Week 1 to start. What a crazy Week 1 it was. Like, seriously insane. And then we'll look ahead at Week 2 and what we think will happen in the second week of the season. So first off, some headlines from Week 1. Once again, I'm a big Steeler fan, so I'm always going to talk Steeler headlines. As you can see, wearing a Chris Boswell jersey this week, the last of the Killer Bees still in Pittsburgh. So first off, big Steeler news is TJ Watt. He looked like he was done for the year. The story was that he tore his pec and would be out for the season. Since then, news has come out that it is not fully torn. He does not need surgery, and he will only be out 4 to 6 weeks. So as a Steeler fan, that is massive, massive news. Completely saves our season. If we don't have TJ Watt for the whole year, our season's over. I had this discussion with my mom, actually, who's a big football fan, that every team has one player that if they lose, their season is just over. For the Steelers, that player is TJ Watt. So I'm glad to hear he will be back. Our schedule is actually probably the easiest in the next 3 weeks or so. So this is the right time for him to get right. So, and then hopefully we'll have him back sooner rather than later. Other NFL headlines going from Week 1. Some major upsets and our first tie of the year. Houston and Indy actually kicked us off with a tie. Steelers were close to having 2 ties in 1 week, but we avoided it. Some other upsets: Giants beating the Titans was a huge one. Bears beating the Niners was a big one. We had some near upsets. Atlanta almost beat New Orleans for us. Detroit was right there with Philly. Yeah, those are some of the big upsets we had in Week 1. And last thing I want to say before I jump into some of the games is the revenge games I mentioned last week. We had 3 quarterbacks playing some X teams. None of those went to plan for the quarterbacks. Joe Flacco lost to the Ravens as expected. Baker, I was so confident would beat the Panthers, or beat the Browns, sorry, as a Panther. So confident actually he was my eliminator pick, and that didn't work out for me or Baker. And lastly, I thought the biggest blowout game of the week would be Russ playing Seattle, and that one blew my mind with how that one turned out. So all the individual players lost to their old teams. So not the way those revenge games were supposed to go for them. So let's look at how all the games went. So I will talk in detail about the games I actually got to watch. I don't feel right kind of going deep into the games that I didn't actually see, just based on stats and stuff. So games I got to actually watch. This isn't unfortunately this isn't my job, so I do have other stuff going on. But games I got to watch was I watched Buffalo and the Rams on Thursday night to open season. I was physically at Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. I drove out to Cincinnati and was at that game. That was a crazy one. But because it's a 5-hour drive for me to get there and 5 hours back, I didn't actually get to watch any other football on Sunday. So Sunday, that was the only game I got to watch. And then I did watch Denver and Seattle on Monday night. So I'll talk kind of more in detail about those 3 games. And the other games, I won't talk as detail about. I'll at least go through the scores for those of you who don't know everything that happened in Week 1. New Orleans beat Atlanta 27-26. San Francisco fell to Chicago 10-19. Philly went to Detroit and won 38-35. New England lost in Miami 7-20. Baltimore beat the Jets 24-9. Jacksonville lost in Washington 22-28. Cleveland beat Carolina 26-24. Indy and Houston tied at 20. The Giants went into Tennessee and won 21-20. Green Bay lost to Minnesota 7-23. Kansas City beat Arizona 44-21. Las Vegas Raiders lost to the Chargers 19-24. And lastly, Tampa Bay beat Dallas 19-3. So that is excluding the 3 games I'll kind of talk about more. So first off, let's talk about the opener to the season. We had Buffalo going to LA to play the Rams, the reigning Super Bowl champs. First half, right off the bat, Bills' pass rush looked much better than it did last year. The addition of Von Miller looked huge. He came up with 2 sacks in the game. The only reason this game was even as close as it was in the first half is because the Bills' turnovers. Josh Allen threw a couple picks. The first one was definitely not his fault. His wide receiver, who I believe, if I remember correctly, was Isaiah McKenzie, just handed the ball right to the linebacker. So yeah, the Bills' turnovers is the only reason it stayed close. Their running back, James Cook, the rookie, fumbled on his first NFL carry. That's not going to help you get more of them. And then on the Rams side, the big surprise to me in the first half and to a lot of fantasy owners was all Darrell Henderson, no Cam Akers. Cam Akers didn't even see the field until the second quarter, and even then he saw very, very few plays, maybe I think it was 3 plays in the first half. So very odd that your listed starting running back, Cam Akers, got 0 playing time compared to the backup, Darrell Henderson, who saw all the playing time. Players of the first half, Cooper Kupp was still doing Cooper Kupp things. He is the Rams' entire offense, and Josh Allen is making a very good MVP case. Second half comes out, Bills just run away with the game. This was not a close game. Josh Allen was absolutely dominant, and like I said, put up a great case for MVP 1 week into the season. Stafford looked bad. Like, I had this discussion with people that, oh, Stafford looked okay, just not great. No, I think Stafford flat out looked bad. His first interception missed the receiver by a wide margin. He threw an interception on a no-look pass. Couldn't find anyone other than Cooper Kupp. Allen Robinson was brought in to be their number 2, and he was non-existent. I know they didn't have Van Jefferson there, but like I said, if the ball wasn't going to Cooper Kupp, the ball wasn't moving. So, I don't know if this is more on Stafford and the Rams offense, or if it's positive towards the Bills defense this year, because if their defense looks like that all year, this Bills team is going to be unstoppable. I don't know how much I attribute it to that. I think the Rams offense was fairly anemic. So we'll see as weeks progress which one it truly was. Players of the game, Josh Allen was the most dominant player in this game by quite a bit. Von Miller, it was the best defense player on the field for the Bills. And Cooper Kupp is still doing Cooper Kupp things. So those would be my 3 most notable players of this game. And then I'll throw up some stats for you here. Josh Allen threw for 297 and 3 scores, ran for another score. Devin Singletary was their leading rusher with 48 yards. Stephon Diggs was their leading receiver with 122 yards and a score. Like I said, Von Miller had 2 sacks. For the Rams, Stafford threw for 240 and 1 score. Also 3 interceptions. Darrell Henderson had 13 carries for 47 yards. Cooper Kupp, like I said, still doing Cooper Kupp things, had 13 catches for 128 and a score. And Terrell Lewis had 1 of their interceptions and 3 tackles. This is a notable defensive player. So that's kind of how the season got kicked off. Like I said, Buffalo absolutely took it to the Rams in this game. So we'll see where the teams go from here. Rams still could be a very good team this year, but that start was not promising. Buffalo, on the other hand, looks like they remain the Super Bowl favorites. Next game I got to see was the Steeler game, Pittsburgh at Cincinnati, and man, was this a fun one. So right out the gate, Steelers defense gets right to Joe Burrow. First play of the game, we sack him. Second play of the game, Minkah Fitzpatrick gets pick 6. So, and obviously, as a Steeler fan, I want to credit everything towards our defense. Joe Burrow made some bad throws in this game. That first pick 6 to Minkah was awful. Like, I don't know what his idea was, and it was not a good start for Burrow. I don't know if it was some sort of Super Bowl slump or something, but he did not get off to a good start. Unfortunately, the only reason the Steelers didn't run away with this game is Trubisky and Najee on the offensive side couldn't get anything going. Our run game was awful, just like it was all last year. Offensive line can't open any holes. Trubisky is completing these short passes and these little reverse runs and everything the same way the offense looked last year with Ben. Steelers fans were promised with Canada that once we got a mobile quarterback like Trubisky, the offense would look so much better. It didn't. It looked exactly the same as 38-year-old Ben Roethlisberger. So hopefully that'll improve weeks to come. I don't want to crucify Matt Canada 1 week into the year, but that offense has to improve. So the Steelers took a 17-6 lead into half. Second half comes out, Bengals stopped turning the ball over as much. Burrow would end with 4 interceptions and a fumble. But if you don't know how this game ended, it came down to the Bengals special teams absolutely failing them. So they score a touchdown with Jamar Chase, or it should be a touchdown, with 2-something to go, I believe. But they call him out of the 1. Zach Taylor, the coach of the Bengals, decides not to challenge this for some reason. So it's 1st and goal from the 1-inch line, basically. And they get stuffed on 4 straight plays by the Steelers defense. And then on the 4th down play, Jamar Chase gets called for taunting, even though they didn't score, where he flipped off Minkah Fitzpatrick. So yeah, we get 15 yards there. We get out of our own end zone a little bit. But once again, our offense goes 3 and out. We punt it away. So they get one more chance. They go down the field, and they do score with 2 seconds remaining in the game. They added 2 seconds onto the clock. Jamar Chase scores. They were down 20-14 at the time. Jamar Chase scores the touchdown that should win the game. It was 20-20. Minkah Fitzpatrick makes a heck of a play again and blocks the extra point. This is one of the plays that led him to be AFC Defense Player of the Week. We block the extra point. We go to overtime. In overtime, they miss the Bengals, McPherson, misses a 29-yard field goal that would have won it. My man Boswell, on the next possession, actually goes down and doinks one off the upright. So we continue playing. Burrow fumbles again on their next possession, which they do recover, but it takes them out of field goal range. So they punt it away. And we basically have 1 chance left. And Trubisky does get it done when we need it most. Found Pat Freiermuth on a couple throws, got in field goal range, and Boswell didn't miss the second time, and he won the game. So, very odd game. If you haven't seen highlights of it or anything, I say you should check it out because it was strange. It was just a strange game. The Steelers did win 23-20. Players of the game, Minkah Fitzpatrick, like I said, he was all over the field like crazy. I did mention earlier TJ Watt unfortunately got hurt in this game, but he was also a monster. But I'm giving Defensive Player of the Game to Minkah. For the Steelers, Deontay Johnson was probably our best offensive player. He made a absolutely ridiculous catch in overtime. Probably the catch of his career. And for the Bengals, Jamar Chase was still incredible. He was their biggest offensive threat. They did pick up some yardage throughout the game because we gave them 94 plays or whatever to do so. So their numbers aren't too bad, but their defense dominated the game. But Jamar Chase gets a mention here. So looking at the numbers here for this game, Trubisky was 21 of 38 for 194 and a score. Chase Claypool, the wide receiver, is actually the Steelers' leading rusher with 36 yards. Freiermuth was their leading receiver with 75 yards. And like I said, Minkah had 14 tackles, pick 6, and had the blocked extra point. For the Bengals, Joe Burrow threw it 53 times for 338 yards, 2 scores. Like I said, 5 turnovers. Mixon had 27 carries for 82 yards. Jamar Chase had 129 yards in the score. And BJ Hill was actually credited with the Bengals' one and only sack, where Mitch Trubisky actually just stepped out of bounds trying to avoid getting hit. He picked up a yard or 2 on the play, but they actually brought it back to where he stepped out. Somebody gets credit with the sack there. I guess BJ Hill was the closest guy nearby. So that was how that game went. And last game I got to kind of talk in depth about because I got to see was the Monday night game, which can I just say did not go at all how I expected. I thought this would be the biggest blowout of the week. I thought Russ would go back into Seattle and absolutely dominate. That's not how this went at all. The first half, Geno Smith was the better quarterback. For the first half of football, Geno Smith was better than Russell Wilson. I don't know how many more times in my lifetime I'll be able to say that. But for one half of football, that statement was true. Geno Smith was better than Russell Wilson. I was a little surprised by the Seahawks' reaction to Russ. He did win them a Super Bowl. I thought they'd be positive towards him. I was wrong. He got booed heavily by the Seahawks fans. And early in the game, he couldn't find his wide receivers. He completed passes to the running backs and tight ends, but the wide receivers couldn't get involved early. Both teams were able to move the ball pretty well in the first half, but just couldn't capitalize once they got in there. The Broncos had multiple fumbles within. I think they had 2 fumbles on the 1-yard line. Like, I know they had 2 red zone fumbles, but I'm pretty sure they were both from the 1-yard line. But yeah, players of the first half. Geno Smith, like I said, he's got to be credited with how well he played in that first half. And Jerry Jeudy actually broke 1 long touchdown for the Broncos. I think that was his only catch, but 64-yard touchdown still deserves to be mentioned. Second half, that's it. The 12th man was still there, with or without Russ. Seahawks fans were heard. They were loud, and they got to the Broncos. Geno did not have the same second half he did first half. The Seahawks offense didn't have the same second half it had first half. But their defense was legit in this game. A defense that I do not think is very good. Played very well. And then we got to talk about the end of the game here for the Broncos. They had a 4th and 6, I believe, with about a minute or so to go. Maybe 48. I think it was 48 seconds is the number that stuck in my mind for some reason. But somewhere around a minute. And it's 4th and 6. And where they were at on the field, it would have been about a 64-yard field goal. The announcers during the game, myself, everyone else watching it, thought, let's go quick, go pick up this 4th, and see how close we can get for the game-winning field goal. They decided not to go for it on 4th and 6. They ran the clock all the way down. And then attempted a 64-yard field goal from there to win the game. You pay Russ all this money to bring him in as a winning quarterback. I think you got to trust Russ's arm there more than McManus's leg. I know he's a great field goal kicker. He's got a big leg, but a 64-yarder is no joke. I think they said on air that he is now 1 for 8 on kicks over 60 yards, which if you're kicking a 60-yarder, it's desperation. But it didn't need to be desperation. A 4th and 6 is makeable. So I think you got to trust Russ in that situation more than McManus. So the brand new head coach did not do that. So we'll see how that affects their relationship, Russ and the coach. But that missed field goal did lead to a Seahawks win of 17-16, which again, this result just stunned me. I thought for sure this was the Broncos game to have. So yeah, looking at the numbers here, Russ threw for 340 still in a score. Melvin Gordon was the leading rusher with 58 yards. Jerry Jeudy had 102 in a score. Bradley Chubb was probably the best defensive player for Denver here. Picked it up late, didn't do anything in the first half, but had 2 sacks in the second half. For the Seahawks, Geno had 195 and 2 scores. Rashard Penny had 60 yards rushing. Will Dissly, the tight end, was actually their leading receiver with 43 yards and a score. And then Mike Jackson, their defense player, actually had 2 fumble recoveries. So he's a defense player that can get mentioned there. But again, those were the 3 games that I can kind of talk more about because I got to see. So all that being said, let's take a look ahead to week 2. See what matchups we got. So first off, on Thursday Night Football, we have a good one between the Chargers and Chiefs. Injuries in that one is McDuffie for the Chiefs. The rookie corner is still hurt. Mahomes is probable. He's listed on the injury report. He'll play. That's no big deal. One of their linemen, Smith, is questionable. And Harrison Butker is also questionable. If you didn't see that last week, he got hurt for Kansas City. And they actually had their safety Reed kick extra points and kickoff set. He looked pretty good. So I kind of like to see him do it again this week. But I'm sure they want their actual kicker back, but we'll see. For the Chargers, the corner Jackson is still questionable. And Keenan Allen is questionable as well. I think I just heard not too long ago that he probably will not be playing this week. So that is a big blow for the Chargers. Key matchup here. Mahomes torched Arizona last week. They're currently the number 1 passing team in the league based on 1 week. But the Chargers secondary's got to slow down Mahomes. Don't let him get off to that crazy hot start. I'm kind of saying that for the whole league. The Mahomes and the Chiefs can be just as good without Tyreek Hill. That's very, very scary. So I'm hopeful the Chargers secondary can slow him down at least a little bit. My fantasy player to watch here is Juju Smith-Schuster. I do think Mahomes is still going to light it up this week. And I want to see his connection with his new wide receivers, either Juju or Valdez Scantling Jr. here. Could be good ones. I went with Juju. Maybe a little biased, but I want to see what Juju does with him. And then keys to victory here is, like I said, the Chargers have to do more than Arizona did to slow down Mahomes in that passing offense. If they slow him down a little bit more, they can win a shootout. They got Justin Herbert, but you can't just let him get away with whatever he wants and throw 5 touchdowns like he did against Arizona. So if they can slow him down a little bit more than that, they stand a chance here. And I said last week, Chargers are my Super Bowl prediction, but for this singular game, I'm going to take the Chiefs at home. It is a divisional game. I usually like to go with the home teams in divisional games, but this should be a fun Thursday night game. All right. Next up, we're going to go to the Steeler game. Patriots coming to town. Patriots coming to Pittsburgh. Injury-wise here, New England, only real injury news they got this week is Mac Jones. He's listed as questionable, but I'm here he's leaning towards playing in this game. If he doesn't play, obviously not having your quarterback is a big loss. For the Steelers, we have a handful of injuries. We got a handful of injuries. I did mention TJ Watt is out for sure. Najee Harris, who suffered a nasty-looking injury last week, apparently it looked a lot worse than it was. He is probable, and he says he's going to go on Sunday, so Najee Harris should be there for Pittsburgh. Jason Cole, their center, is questionable as well with an undisclosed issue. So no idea what's going on there, but he's listed as questionable. And Alex Highsmith, who had 3 sacks for the Steelers in week 1, is also listed as questionable. The linebacker outside or opposite TJ. So if we don't have TJ, love to have Highsmith there. If we don't have them both, that might be an issue. The key matchup here is how the Patriots offensive line does against the Steelers pass rush. We saw the Bengals offensive line absolutely get torn apart by it. Obviously, if we have no TJ, no Highsmith, it's going to be easier for the Patriots to hold up. But either way, the Steelers have got to be Blitzburg. The pass rushers got to get there, and that's how we win football games. So no matter who's out there, the standard is the standard, as Tomlin would say, and the pass rush needs to get home. So that's going to be the key to victory here. Can we get sacks again without our stars? Fantasy player to watch here is Damian Harris for the Patriots. Especially if they don't have Mac Jones, they will lean on that run game. And even though the Steelers look much better against Joe Mixon week 1, held him to 3 yards of carry. That was still a major weakness for that team last year. So I'm not fully convinced that issue is gone yet. So that'd be a fantasy guy I have an eye out for in this game. And key to victory, I kind of already mentioned it. Steelers need to get pass rush home even without TJ. So that'll be the key. I would say if you see the Steelers get, say 4 is the number. If we get 4 or more sacks, I would think we win this game. If we don't, we might lose. But Patriots are still favored here, which bugs me a little bit. We did just beat the AFC champs, and we are at home. But so obviously I'm picking Steelers here. I always, like I said before, I will always pick the Steelers. But I think this one, last week I was hopeful we could win, but didn't really think we would. This week I much more believe we can and should win this football game. Next up, we got Jets at Browns. For the Jets, their only real injury news is Zach Wilson. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm recording this late at night. Zach Wilson is still out for this game, from what I hear. There's an outside chance he makes it back, but I believe it will be Joe Flacco for another week. And for the Browns, Conklin, their tackle is questionable, but outside of that, they're fairly healthy, and obviously still no Watson with his suspension. Key matchup here is the Jets D-line needs to slow down the Browns' run game. The Browns are a fantastic running football team. Their passing attack is not going to be as strong with Jacoby Brissett, who is still fine. There's nothing wrong with Brissett, but they're going to try to beat you on the ground with some ground and pound. So that's the key matchup here is can the Jets D-line slow that down? Fantasy player to watch this week, it's got to be one of the Browns running backs. I'm actually going to lean Kareem Hunt here. Both running backs had a good week 1 for the Browns, but I actually think Hunt might shine a little bit more in this matchup. The Jets might focus so much in the middle to stopping the run that passing for the running back can be a bigger option. And I like Kareem Hunt as their receiving back a little bit more. And yeah, key to victory. The Jets did a really good job against the run last week against Baltimore, who is also a big ground and pound team. They did let Lamar go over the top against them a couple times. But if they can have that same performance against the run here against Cleveland, I don't think Brissett's as capable of beating you over the top like that. So I think the Jets have a legitimate chance if they can have the same run defense they had last week. So if they do have that same performance, I will go as far as to say the Jets will win this game. I don't think they do have that same run stopping defense this week. So that's why I am going to take the Browns. All right, next up, we got the Commanders going to Detroit. Injury news in this one. Your Lions, Detroit Lions, team everyone's rooting for this year after their Hard Knocks appearance. Pretty beat up, nothing too serious, but a bunch of questionable guys. Pretty much their entire offensive line is all questionable. One of their guards is out. Literally, the other four are all questionable. Brockers is questionable. DeAndre Swift is questionable. Their star running back. So they have a lot of injury concerns. For Washington, their guard Turner is questionable. Jonathan Allen and Mathis, both their defensive tackles are. Allen's questionable. Mathis is out. Their tight end Logan Thomas is questionable, and their safety Curl is questionable. So two kind of banged up teams here. Key matchup here is just going to be Carson Wentz. I don't even know who I want to say he's matched up against here. I guess the D coordinator for the Lions. If you get good Carson Wentz, the Commanders can dominate this game. If you get mistake-prone Carson Wentz, the Lions can dominate this game. I think I might have said Lions both times. Hopefully you understood what I said. If Wentz makes the right decisions, Commanders can dominate. If he makes the wrong ones, the Lions can dominate. Like, this game could go any way solely based on how Carson Wentz plays. Player to watch here, I got Terry McLaurin for fantasy. I think he is a fantastic wide receiver. That's still, even now, not enough people know who that is. Terry McLaurin is a very good wide receiver that the average football fan doesn't know. Fantasy guys obviously know him. All fantasy football guys know Terry McLaurin, but the average just NFL watcher probably does not. He's a great player. He's the fantasy guy to watch here. Yeah, and my pick just comes down to how does Carson Wentz play. If you think he's going to have multiple turnovers, then I think the Lions are going to win this game. I think he's going to have another good week. He had a pretty good week one. Not perfect, but a above average week one. I think he does the same here in week two, and I'm going to take the Commanders to... No, I'm changing my mind on the fly here. I think Carson Wentz is going to throw some turnovers here. I'm going to believe in the Lions despite the injuries. I'm going to take the Lions. As soon as I was going to say I'm taking Carson Wentz and the Commanders, something in my brain clicked that I shouldn't do that. Like, the days of me trusting Wentz are gone. I'm going to go Lions. We're going Detroit Lions here to win this game. Next up, we got the Buccaneers at the Saints. Injury news here for Tampa to start. They got a tackle out, Julio Jones, or a tackle questionable worse. Sorry, I don't know all my offensive lineman names, so I do have notes here that I'm reading this off of. So, but one of their tackles, worse, is out. Julio, basically their entire wide receiver core is all questionable or out. Julio Jones is questionable, Mike Evans is questionable, and Chris Godwin is out. Their other tackle, Smith, is also questionable, and Leonard Fournette is questionable. So a lot of skill positions, and both their tackles are all having issues this week. For New Orleans, their safety May is questionable, Cam Jordan is questionable, Jameis Winston is questionable, Odebo, their corner, is questionable, and Alvin Kamara is probable. So nothing too serious on these teams. The only injury that seems like it's of significance is Godwin's for the Buccaneers. He will not be playing. Key matchup here is for one, if Leonard Fournette plays, because he is questionable, but I expect him to be out there. What kind of run game can they get out of Leonard Fournette here in week 2 against the Saints? If the Saints want to win this game, they got to get the Buccaneers off the field on third down. That's going to be the key to the game is the Buccaneers' third down percentage. If it's under 50%, Saints have a chance here. If it's over 50%, the Bucs dominate this game. I think Leonard Fournette is your fantasy player to watch. I think he's the guy to keep an eye on. But yeah, I think this game's going to 100% come down to third downs. So we'll see how that matchup works out. I think the Buccaneers are flat out the better team. I think they'll convert on plenty of third downs with Tom Brady and Leonard Fournette. I think they'll have enough of those wide receivers play. I don't know which one of them, which group of them will play, but Brady will find them on third down. And much as I hate Brady and it always hurts me to pick them, I am picking the Buccaneers here to beat the Saints. Next up, we got the Panthers going to New York to face the surprise 1-0 Giants. Injuries here. First off for the Giants, Feliciano, one of their offensive linemen, is questionable. Robinson, their corner, is out. Their rookie linebacker, Thibodeau, is out. And one of their other linebackers, Ojalia, I don't know who it is. He is questionable. For Carolina, you got a tackle that is questionable, and one of their linebackers, Luvu, is questionable. But outside that, not too banged up here. The key matchup here, I'll roll the key matchup, the fantasy player to watch, and the keys to victory all come down to one guy. Do we get that Saquon Barkley again? That's the question. Saquon Barkley came to this league expecting to be dominant, and he was for a minute. And he got hurt, and then he got hurt again. And then last year, he didn't look like himself. And I was stunned to hear he played 14 games last year. I had to look that up. I'm like, Saquon did not play 14 games last year. He did. But obviously, he was not the Saquon we wanted to see or the one we remember. Last week, he looked like the one we thought he was. So if we get that Saquon again, the Giants will absolutely win this football game. There's no doubt in my mind the Giants win this football game if you get that Saquon again. So he's my fantasy player to watch. He is the key matchup, Panthers defense versus Saquon, and he is the key to victory. If Saquon is 100% healthy and looks like that every week, the Giants are going to be in a lot of football games. I don't expect them to win a lot of football games. I don't think they're a good team. But that Saquon can keep them in there. So I think he is going to look like that again. At least as an NFL fan, I'm hopeful of it. So I am taking the Giants to get to 2-0, and I'm stunned I'm saying that. All right, moving on. Next game, we got Colts at Jaguars. Injury news. Jaguars come this game healthy. No real injury news to state. For the Colts, linebacker Leonard is probable. Cornerback Moore is questionable. Defensive tackle Buckner is questionable. Michael Pittman Jr., wide receiver, is questionable. And Pierce, one of their other wide receivers, is also questionable. So, much like other teams, just a bunch of guys kind of listed on the injury report. Nothing seems too serious. Key matchup here is Matt Ryan had a pretty good day through the air last week, even though they tied the Houston Texans. I obviously didn't get to see how that game kind of went down at the end. But what's unfortunate is what it appears to be, again, I didn't see the game, but it appears that Matt Ryan looked pretty good for most of the game, and the Colts couldn't put the Texans away. Just couldn't finish the game. So I want to see another good performance out of Matt Ryan here. I think that's going to be the key, is how he leads that offense versus the Jaguars secondary. Because the Jaguars almost came away with a win of their own. My fantasy player here to watch is, I do think Matt Ryan's going to have another green game. I still think Matt Ryan's got some juice in the tank. Not a ton, but a little bit. I still think he's an upgrade from Carson Wentz they had last year. So, and I think he's an upgrade over the Phillip Rivers they had 2 years ago. But that one's much closer. Phillip Rivers wasn't too bad for him. But my fantasy player here to watch is, if Michael Pittman Jr. is a little banged up, like I think he is, I think Matt Ryan might find Paris Campbell a little bit. He's a smaller name guy that I actually think could have a decent game here for the Colts. So look for Paris Campbell, the wide receiver, to get some looks here from Matt Ryan. And the key to victory here is just the Colts offense putting the game away. They're going to have a lead in this game. Almost guaranteed the Colts have a lead at some point in this game. Can they maintain the lead? And when we get to the fourth quarter, can they put the game out of reach from Jacksonville? If they leave Jacksonville around, Trevor Lawrence could go do some and beat them. So the Colts need to put this game out of reach as soon as they can. Unfortunately for them, I don't think they will. I think the Jaguars actually pull this one out at home. So that's my pick. I'm going to pick Jacksonville here to beat Indy. All right, next up, we got Dolphins going to Baltimore. So, Miami Dolphins, the new look speed team, going to the Baltimore Ravens. First off, injury-wise, J.K. Dobbins looks like he's probably going to play for the Ravens this week. He's listed as probable. They got a couple tackles. One tackle is out. The other tackle is questionable. Janice is out. Stanley is questionable. Their corner Fuller is out. And their other corner, Marcus Peters, is questionable. So without Fuller especially, they kind of need Peters to play. On Miami's side, Cedric Wilson, the wide receiver, is questionable. Armstead, their new tackle they got this year, he is questionable. And Jackson, their other tackle, is also questionable. So not a good game for tackles here. Everyone's kind of banged up coming into it. Key matchup is both these teams I expect to be able to run the ball, but neither of them did week one. So my key matchup is actually the battle of the running games. Who can get theirs on track first? Like I said, Baltimore already was a great running team last year. Just didn't show it in week one. Miami, I think, need to be. I don't think you need to put all the trust and faith in Tua's arm. So I want to see which running game gets going early in this game. Fantasy player to watch. I mean, he's always a fun one. Is Tyreek Hill. Sorry, doing a lot of talking. Sometimes I need to take a drink. Yeah, Tyreek Hill, I think, is always a threat to be a big fantasy guy. And if both teams focus on the run, like I kind of think they should, might open up some things in the air, and they can take some big shots with Tyreek Hill. And that's when you get the big fantasy days. If the Dolphins' offense is running well, Tyreek Hill is always a threat to score, and he could even score multiple times. I'm not the biggest Tua believer. I'm going to say it over and over. But if they do get going, Tyreek Hill is the guy to watch. And like I said, my key to victory is which run game gets going early. I think whoever has more rushing yards at halftime will win the game. Obviously, you want to continue in the second half. Second half is more important. But that's going to be my gauge is who got the running game going early in the first half to kind of take control of the game. I'm going to go with the team that's proven that more, and that's Baltimore. So that is my pick to win this one, as I am going with the Ravens. Moving on to the next game, we got the Atlanta Falcons going to the LA Rams. For Atlanta, injury news is really none to mention. Much like I said with Jacksonville, they're coming to this game pretty healthy. For the Rams, Van Jefferson is still questionable. He did not play in week one, and don't know if he'll play yet in week two. And we saw Noteboom, the tackle, go down on Thursday night. He is also listed as questionable. Key matchup for me, I mean, kind of goes out of the ordinary for this category, but is Darrell Henderson versus Cam Akers. Like I said, they went all Darrell Henderson week one, and their run game looked awful. Do they switch it up? Do they go Cam Akers? Do they think Darrell Henderson is the guy and it just didn't work week one? So I'm curious to see how McVay uses their two running backs and who is the bell cow here in week two. I'm expecting it to be Henderson again. Based on the week one performance, I wouldn't mind them switching up and going with Cam Akers. So we'll see how that goes between those two guys. Fantasy player to watch is Cordero Patterson, running back for the Falcons. I think he's slowly becoming one of the more underrated players in the league with the better he does. Because there's for a lot of people, there's a idea that Patterson was kind of a bust when he came out and that he's not that good of a player. He's looked really good the last couple of years for Atlanta. Week one, he ran for 122 yards. He is a very good player that people need to realize that. He is my fantasy player to watch here. Mariota in the pass offense is not going to be great for Atlanta this year. They don't have the great wide receivers. Their best hopes at wide receiver are rookies. So they're going to lean on the run game, and Cordell Patterson is a good guy to lean on. So he is my fantasy player to watch here. Key to victory here is the Rams getting some semblance of balance. And I don't even mean the traditional sense of balance here, run and pass. Obviously, they would like to have a run game, and that'd be very, very helpful to them. But I just mean balance between plays to Cooper Kupp and plays to anyone else. Like, Cooper Kupp can't be your entire offense. He's a great player, and when you go to him, it works quite a bit. Somebody else has got to step up and help him. Whether that's Allen Robinson, whether that's Cam Akers, whether that's Darrell Henderson, somebody else on the team has to be a threat. And Stafford needs to be play much better than he did week 1. But somebody other than Cooper Kupp has to step up. I just don't think Atlanta has enough firepower to keep up with the Rams. Whether or not I think they improved from week 1, the Rams, I think it's kind of irrelevant. I think they're just a better team and they're going to win this football game because of it. But depending on how they look, they have bigger problems than... Like, a win against the Falcons doesn't solve all their problems. So, we'll see how this game goes. But I am going to take the Rams to win this one. And depending on problems they fix, it could be rather one-sided. But if we see a performance like week 1, I think they win a very close one here with the Atlanta Falcons. All right. Next up, we got a divisional matchup between the Seattle Seahawks and the 49ers. Surprisingly, the Seahawks coming off the win and the Niners coming off the loss. Injury news for the Niners. Eli Mitchell, their running back, is out. George Kittle is still questionable. Their tight end. For the Seahawks, Jamal Adams, their safety, is out. He got carted off week 1. And Lewis, their guard, is questionable. Key matchup here for me is Trey Lance versus himself. He looked awful in week 1. There were some weather issues where he was playing. I mean, that could be part of it, but he just needs to get out of his own head and go play football. Like, I think the fact that Garoppolo is still there is messing with him. At least that's just my opinion. He needs to clear his head and just go play football. So we'll see how that goes. Biggest threat he has on his team to help him do that is my fantasy player to watch, and that's Deebo Samuel. As my dad says, he thinks he is the best pure football player possibly in the whole NFL. He says he's not the best wide receiver, not the best running back. But if you just need a guy that says, hey, we're going to go play some football, who do you want? I'm taking Deebo. So lean on Deebo. Trey Lance needs to lean on him. Trust in him, and he could be your fantasy player that breaks out here. Key to victory is as simple as, can Trey Lance run this offense? If he can be the commander and lead this team, they can be good. They got talent. I'm not convinced he can step up into that role and actually lead this team. And I think if he continues to struggle, you might see the thought of going back to Jimmy G. I think he's the better option for them personally. I don't believe in Trey Lance, but let's see if he proves me wrong and he can run this offense to a good degree. I am going to take them to win this game. I think the Seahawks in a way had their Super Bowl in week 1, and they got so pumped up and excited for it. I think they're going to have kind of a letdown game after that. Good for them on winning it, though. That was awesome. But I don't think they have the same sort of energy in this game as they did week 1, and I'm going to take the Niners to win it. Next up, we got Cincinnati and the Bengals going to the Cowboys. Injury news for the Bengals. Both their guards are currently listed as probable. Hayden Hurst, their starting tight end, is probable. Defensive tackle Hendrickson is probable. And then T. Higgins is questionable. Minka did give him a concussion last week. So I'm hoping he's all right for him, but he is questionable. For Dallas, Michael Gallup is doubtful. Their guard McGovern is out. Their safety Curse is out. And I believe that's all the injury news for Dallas. Obviously, I skipped the big one. Dak Prescott, their quarterback, is out. Cooper Rush will be their starting quarterback this week. And obviously, that is a huge, huge blow to Dallas. I mentioned at the beginning of it with TJ Watt that every team has that one guy they can't win a Super Bowl without. Dak's that guy for Dallas. Most teams it is their quarterback. But yeah, they aren't a threat without Dak. So, but key matchup here is let's see what the Bengals O-line does. Obviously, they looked absolutely horrendous week 1 against the Steelers, forcing 5 turnovers and 7 sacks. Yes, I will continue to say that as much as I can. But let's see if they look a little bit better here against the Cowboys. If the Cowboys can get the same sort of pressure that Steelers did, they have a chance to upset them just like we did. I expect the offensive line to be better than week 1. Not good, but better. Fantasy player watchers Joe Burrow, or not Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase. He was their number 1 target in week 1. And if T. Higgins is still questionable here and doesn't play, Jamar Chase will be their biggest threat once again. So look at him to be running through that Cowboys secondary. Key to victory here is, I wrote it in all caps in my notes, protect Burrow. Again, if he gets hit 11, I think we had like 11 or 13 QB hits on him week 1. If he gets hit like that again in week 2, not only will he be lucky to stay on the field, but they're going to have a tough time winning. He did it all last year, and I get that. But that is not a longevity way to succeed. Like, he's going to get hurt. You have to protect your quarterback, especially one as young and as good as Joe Burrow. So that's the key to victory. If you can protect Joe Burrow, you win this game. You are the better team. They don't have Dak. Do that one thing and you win this game. And like I said, I think they will do a better job, not a good job of it, but a better one than they did week 1. And without Dak, like I said, the Cowboys just really can't compete here. And I'm going with the Bengals to win this game. Next up, we got Texans at Broncos. Injuries here for the Broncos. Their linebacker Gregory is questionable. Wide receiver Hamler is questionable. They got a guard that is out and a linebacker Jewell who is questionable. For Houston, their defense tackle Collins is questionable, and their offensive lineman Britt is questionable. Key matchup here is going to be the Broncos offense versus the Texans red zone defense. I mentioned it before. The Broncos had multiple fumbles within the red zone. Their red zone offense week 1 against Seattle was pretty horrendous. Russell Wilson's got to get it done in the red zone. Like, when you get it down there at the 1, you got to punch it in. And I get the irony here. People still mention the Seahawks not giving it to Lynch at the 1. So I don't know if that's the Russ curse or something, but the Broncos have to be able to get the job done when they get in the red zone. Fantasy player watchers, I expect Russ to have a very good week. I think he took the Seattle game a little more personally than he needed to. And I thought he played fine, to be honest. I talked about Geno outplaying him in the first half. Russ threw for like 330 yards still in a touchdown. Like, Russ played fine. They just didn't get it done in the red zone and didn't get it done late. So I expect Russ to have a very good game here. I said it week 1. I thought the Broncos were going to be the biggest blowout game of the week. I'm going to say it again. I think the Broncos blow out the Texans here. I think this is your biggest blowout game of the week. And your key to victory is, I'm going to go cliche here. Let Russ cook. Just let Russ run this game and just dominate. Don't kick 64-yard field goals instead of giving your quarterback a chance to pick it up. But yeah, just get out of his way. Let Russ win this game. He has not had the greatest of the last couple of years. I think Russ is still a great quarterback, and he's going to show it in this game. Next up, we got the Arizona Cardinals going to visit Las Vegas and the Raiders. Injury news here for the Cardinals. Rondale Moore is doubtful. Their wide receiver. Their safety Thompson is questionable. Tight end Zach Ertz is questionable. Defensive end J.J. Watt is questionable. And their offensive lineman Pugh is questionable. For Las Vegas, their linebacker Perryman is questionable, and that's about it for them. Key matchup here for me is Derek Carr versus the Cardinals secondary. Patrick Mahomes tore that secondary apart week 1. If Derek Carr can get close to that week 2, the Raiders can run this game. Obviously, I'm not saying Derek Carr is Patrick Mahomes, but that secondary did not look good. And like I said, he just has to come close to that type of performance. And I think, I don't want to say like it'll be easy or anything, but I think he can have a very big week with the way that secondary looks. And with that, fantasy player to watch here, I got Devontae Adams. I think he's going to get even more comfortable with his new number one target. I think they're going to use this game as a stepping stone or a launching pad to build their relationship even more. I know they played back in college or whatever, but I think this will be a very good game for those two and a good connection. So Devontae Adams is my player to watch in this for fantasy. And key to victory, like I said, the Cardinals secondary has to slow down Carr. Probably turn him over once or twice, but definitely don't just allow him to pick them apart like Mahomes did. So it's going to come down to that battle, Derek Carr versus the back end of the Cardinals defense, and that's going to determine your winner here. I am going to take the Raiders at home, which I know is weird to say because I took the Cardinals to beat the Chiefs week 1, and now I'm taking them to lose to the Raiders. But I was not pleased with what I saw of the Cardinals. I thought they'd be a pretty good team this year. I'm already second guessing that. So I'm going to take the Raiders here at home over the Cardinals. Next up is our Sunday night football game. And it's a old classic rivalry. Bears at Packers. My mom's a big Bears fan, so I've seen quite a few of these rivalry games. So first off, injury-wise, Chicago's coming to the game healthy. No real injury news to note. For the Packers, Walker, their linebacker, is probable. Their guard, Runyon, is questionable. Both their tackles are questionable. And Alan Lazard, their number one wide receiver, is questionable. Key matchup here, and I think I say it every single time the Bears play the Packers, is their offense versus time of possession. The easiest way to beat Aaron Rodgers for the Bears is to have him sit on the bench. Their offense played in a monsoon week 1. Justin Fields did what he needed to do to win the game, but they didn't pick up a ton of yards. They need to pick up yardage and hold the ball to win this game. If you win the battle of possession and you win the time of possession, the Bears have a shot here. I don't know how good of a shot, but they have a shot. For the Packers, some wide receiver needs to step up and play football. Romeo Doubs did a little bit at the end of their game last week, but Rodgers needs somebody to throw the football to. As they said multiple times last week, life without Devontae Adams for Aaron Rodgers has not looked good so far. That wide receiver I'm predicting do it. I mean, you can grab a name out of a hat as far as you're guessing. But fantasy player watch, I'm going to go with Sammy Watkins to actually be the one to step up and help Aaron Rodgers here. Like I said, it could be any of them, but somebody's got to do it. But yeah, key to victory, like I said, I think whoever wins that time of possession is going to be your winner of the game. Whoever has the ball more. Aaron Rodgers, we know, traditionally owns the Bears. He has said so himself. I've mentioned the triangle I always see in that division. This is another one of those matchups, and I was right about it week 1. I said the Vikings always dominate the Packers. Packers usually dominate the Bears. So that is who I'm going to go with here. I'm going to go with the Packers. But if we get the same wide receiver performances we got out of the Packers week 1, we're going to see another frustrated Aaron Rodgers, and the Bears could pull off the upset here. But I don't think that's going to happen. I am going to go with the Packers. Next up, we have the first of 2 Monday night games. The Tennessee Titans going to the Buffalo Bills. For the Bills, their only real injury here is Ed Oliver. He is questionable. Big D tackle for him that looked pretty good week 1. For the Titans, their safety Moore is out, and their D end Hand is out. Key matchup here is just find a way to slow down Josh Allen. I mentioned he looked MVP caliber week 1. I do think he can get a little. I don't know how the way I want to word this correctly. Like, getting 2 into the game is obviously not a bad thing. You want your quarterback in it, but I think he can make some bad decisions, specifically when they run those option plays where he's just, I'm keeping this ball no matter what. Like he's, like I said, too competitive in a bad way. Like, I love competitiveness, but it can cloud his judgment at times. At least that's my opinion of it. I think the Titans need to capitalize on those moments. If you see Josh Allen trying to make a hero play, you need to go turn it into a turnover. And that's how the Titans can stay in this game. I think I've said it last week, and I'm going to say it again. Devin Singletary's a good running back for the Bills. I wish they would use him more. I know Josh Allen's MVP caliber, but he doesn't need to do it all himself. The Titans' run defense is not the best in the world. It has holes. Give the ball to Devin Singletary. Let him carry a little bit in this game. Take a little bit of the pressure off Josh Allen. I think the Bills will be great. I think they'll win this game by double digits if they do that. If they put it all in Josh Allen's arm, they'll probably still win. But I think it'll be a little harder in the long run. Give him some help. Give the ball to Devin Singletary a little bit. Let's see the run game command this game a little bit. And that's my key to victory, too. I mean, I didn't just straight up say it, but if the Bills' offense is more balanced this week, I think they will just dominate this game. If they're 90% pass, like they usually are, they'll win a close one. Close-ish. But, yeah, so that's what I want to see. Bills balance it out a little bit more. Either way, I'm taking the Bills to win this game. Like I said, they're kind of dominant right now. They are the Super Bowl favorites. I never pick the Super Bowl favorites to win the Super Bowl. That's why they are not mine. But, yeah, that is my pick for this game is the Buffalo Bills. And then our final game of the week is Vikings at Eagles. Injuries here. Both these teams coming in pretty healthy. Minnesota, no real injuries to mention. Eagles, they have a DN Barnett who is out. But outside that, pretty healthy. Key matchup here is, and it's probably going to be a key matchup every week. I have an Eagles, or talk about an Eagles game, is the Vikings front seven versus the Eagles run game. The Eagles are kind of in a way the new Baltimore Ravens with the way they play. You got to stop the run. Force Jalen Hurts to beat you with his arm. That's pretty much always going to be what I say. Key matchup and the key to victory is if you force Jalen Hurts to have to use his arm to beat you, I think you have a very good chance. If you let that team run all over you, you don't have a very good chance. So that's why also my fantasy player to watch here is Miles Sanders. He did actually score a touchdown last week, which is what he didn't do all of last year, and why fantasy owners were very concerned with him. He did score last week. He's my guy to watch again this week. And I think they are going to be able to run the ball in the Vikings still. And I think Jalen Hurts will make enough throws when asked that the Eagles will win this game at home. And that is my prediction. All my predictions for week 2. Eagles wrap it up with a win at home over the Vikings. So that is going to be it for this week. Talked about week 1 a little bit. Gave you my predictions for week 2, all my picks. Again, if you want to compete against me and see how you do against my picks, feel free to leave any comments about what you thought about mine. And then in the description, you will see my ESPN Pick'em League or my group. And I'll put my eliminator still in there. I lost week 1 already. But if you are still in it, feel free to join my group and see how far you go. But yeah, I'll have both those in the description. So feel free to join and play along. And like I said, you obviously know what picks I'm making. I just said them all out loud for you. All that being said, thank you guys for watching the video. Please do like and subscribe if you did enjoy this. Like I said, leave me any comments what you thought. And please check out some of my other videos. I really would appreciate that. Always means a lot when you do so. And like I said, if you haven't subscribed, please do. And yeah, hope you all have a good day and a good night. And I'll catch you in a future video. Bye, guys.